Hello and welcome to the DNX Show. My name's Todd Ryan and my co-host is Josh Reason. Josh is on vacay for the next couple months. Must be nice, huh? He's probably going to drop in, but we're going to let him enjoy his life. And then if he wants to, share, as I'm sure he will, there's a few things I wanted to ask him. We'll, have him share. Hold on, I was going to invite Jeremiah, who's also going on a vacation. I wanted to talk a little bit about catches. We'll let people get into this room first because I think quite a few folks will want to head over there and check out the reverse auction at catches. So we'll be patient and talk about that in just a second. Let me get Arif up here and we'll get rolling. Got a lot of topics today. All I have to do is take a look at what all the domain investors are posting on X, and just great topics to touch on. I mean, interesting. If I'd say great, but okay. So that's how smooth it is. Invited Arif, invited Jeremiah. Nothing's going on. I can't say anything. Are you guys on stage? Am I just not seeing it? Okay. Here we go. Like I said, we're going to talk about a lot of different things today. By the way, there's no DNX newsletter while Josh is on vacation. How's everything going today, Arif? What's up?
Not too bad, not too bad. It's a rainy day here. I'm just doing a little bit of auction stuff and sailed a couple hours ago. Actually, it was overnight, but I didn't check my email until like about an hour ago. So it's already in, transfers there. I'm just waiting for the money to pop up. They say the funds have been, implemented, so probably get it tomorrow.
Well,
We'll see.
congratulations. So basically, you just got the normal, I didn't catch the beginning there, an Afternic email. It was just a buy it now on Afternic.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, 5K. That's good.
And we
It's
never know. We never know if those are reg path, right? We just know it was a buy it now on Afternic, so it could be reg path. It could be just going to the lander,
yeah.
right?
There's some people with reps at Afternic who can find out. Like you can ask and they'll tell you. I've never really done that. I probably should. Because I'm kind of curious, and that's really what it comes down to, right? How you strategize if you use Afternic landing pages or not, and pay the extra 10% commission if you don't, type of thing. It's like it really depends on what proportion of your sales come from your landers versus the search path from registrars. So I'm kind of curious. I
Yeah.
should I'll make a note of that. I'll talk to my rep. Actually, talked to my rep yesterday about some other stuff. I'm having just nightmares on the GoDaddy platform. Like it's just my connection is blocked. It's all the time, like hourly. I have to clear my cookies. Sometimes that doesn't work. Then I have to use incognito. And sometimes that doesn't work. And I have to go on my phone, make sure the Wi-Fi is off. So I'm on a different sort of service provider for my cell instead of my home connection. It's just a disaster. But my rep is amazing, and he's helped me out here and there. A couple of times I said, "Oh, can you put this in my cart for me?" It's like it's that bad. It feels so bad, but I feel bad too because I'm talking a lot. But yeah, I'll make sure to ask him that because I've got a great rep. I gripe a lot about GoDaddy, but I'm lucky. For you guys who don't have a rep, I don't know how you do it, but it is what it is.
Well, I'm gonna get ask Jeremiah a few questions because he's getting ready to go on vacation. I actually had Mike Seiger. I wanted to find out what was going on with him with his challenge and stuff. He's on vacation. Josh is on vacation. I mean, everybody's going on vacation. I don't want to take too much of Jeremiah's time. But Arif, I am going to also ask my rep, my last sell, which was like, I don't know, 5 or 6 weeks ago now. It ended up being a negotiation, but I'm wondering if it was, if that could still happen through, they first find it through the reg path. I don't know how that would work, and then click on it, and then maybe go to. I mean, I guess that really doesn't make sense because if you go through the reg path and you see that it's for sale, you click on it. I bet you probably could still call in, and maybe they do have that data. Who knows?
Well,
But
I know in the past I made a sale that was like the communication was slow, right? And I did ask, this is like years ago. And so I don't know if it's still the same way, but I did ask the broker, like, what's going on. And basically, there was a negotiation, like an offer, whatever it was, but it was through another registrar. Now, so I don't know if the person, if it's something they could do by clicking a button, like make offer and it's all automated, or if the person just entered the domain, let's say Dynadot, right? And saw the price and saw, oh, let's see if I can negotiate, and called Dynadot, and it was like kind of an exception because it was manual rather than automated, right? But for me, it's always like, okay, as long as you want to, if you get a couple of price requests and all that stuff, sometimes it's good to slow things down and show that you're not, in a rush to sell. You're not, you're not going to sell any price. But then sometimes it's really important to be quick, right? Because sometimes exactly that, like if you're quick, well, it doesn't mean that the end user is going to get the information quickly. It means you got to enter on the site or an Afternic, and then the broker's got to get in touch with that person, and it's like 3 days later, right? Even if you already replied within the first hour. So, sometimes being quick is good, and sometimes you want to slow things down as a negotiation tool. But it's really, you got to read the situation, and that's the problem with Afternic. You don't really know what the situation is, right? You don't know where the lead is coming from and whatnot. So it is what it is. But yeah.
Well, I mean, congratulations on the sale, and I know Ish. I see him here, and invite him up, and after we talk with Jeremiah, if he wants to share. But he sold so many names. If I didn't know Ish and his names and stuff, it is hard to. I mean, what I'm getting at is, yeah, I believe Ish, but anybody else that has so many sales in a month, where some of us don't have sales, and we're like, how's he doing it? How's this happening? Some are big,
It's
some are
also,
small. Hold on.
yeah, but it's also because like he's not just buying closeouts, right? Like he'll have a higher sell-through rate than I do, but it's because like he pays for domains. Like he'll pay 3-4 figures, right? And that's fine too. Like there's no wrong way of doing this, right? My costs are significantly lower than his will be, like drastically, but I'll get less sales.
Right,
But that's okay. Like both models are fine as long as we're profitable. That's what matters in the day, is if you're profitable. And there's many different models, different ways of doing that. And I'll let you go with Jaman. We could talk about this stuff afterwards.
Yeah. Well, right.
I want to correct RF because there definitely is a wrong way to do this.
Oh yeah. No, for every right way, there's literally 100 wrong ways. That's very true. But I mean, I'm just saying we don't have to do the same way, right? There's different paths to be profitable. But you're right. There are many more paths to losing your shirt, your dot shirt, as I like to say.
Yeah. And Arif, you did mention about domainers losing money year after year and not being honest with themselves. We're going to talk about that because it's not all rosy, but the thing is, when you do see people making sales, you do want to find out, so what is going on when you have struggles? How do you get through them? And then how do you get these sales? And then what percentage, like we want to know, how much is inbound? How much do you believe is reg path? How much is outbound? How are you pricing? Because Ish makes a good point that you got to price them reasonable. And then that's what we want to know from the pros. What is reasonable? Okay, before we get into, we're going to talk domains for a couple hours here, at least right up until noon Pacific, because about 11:55 is when we'll shut it down. Give me 5 minutes before my noon call. But Jeremiah, I'm thrilled with what Catches is doing. I mean, what I really like the most is what you just put up this past week, these reverse auctions. It's cool. You got a bunch of great names there. I could sort of explain it, but I want you to tell us about the reverse auctions, how they start, how they, basically the increments that they drop, and what we can expect in the future of domain investors of maybe participating in these reverse auctions.
Sure. Well, we're still trying to figure out how we're going to do it there's some logistics of are we going to do it on a weekly basis or a bi-weekly basis? Because you got to have inventory, right? A lot of the names that are in this portfolio, in this dump of reverse auction names, they're names that customers either back ordered and then didn't pay for, or they're part of Niraj or my portfolio. We're just kind of, it's our first initial test just to see what happens. When we first launched it, we had a couple sales like right away, which was really surprising. So like we obviously undervalued a couple names, which, you know, I think as a domain investor, you just have to roll with it, right? I mean, a lot of people sell names undervalued and then later they sell for a lot more. So obviously this, the people that bought these two names saw more value in them than I did. So it's
But
gonna be like a 7-day auction, reverse auction, similar to how Name Liquidate works. They start at $9.99 and then go down to $25. And then when they're at $25, they'll still be available at $25 for 24 hours. And then they'll clear out. And then they may, if some of them don't sell, they might show up in later auctions. Now this is just a way to to generate some buzz around reverse auctions. I think we're gonna try to mature our auction platform a little bit more to be, where our customers who have names, they've decided they just want to try to get rid of them. I think I want to build that functionality to let our customers potentially put their own names in reverse auctions, just like we did here, where they kind of are on a schedule once a week, and they'll end on a specific day at a specific, around a specific time. We just haven't really, this is the first go at it, so it's trial and error and trying to figure out how we can get some buzz around it, do some marketing, and then we're gonna end up doing like a daily email that we just started doing for catches. If you signed up for our newsletter or are a customer, we're going to send out a daily email in the morning, just kind of showing the top 25 names that are dropping. And then we've started doing some similar email marketing for the auction, where you get an email that just lists the top 25 names that are in the auction, and based on value, appraised value, which we all know is speculative, but still, it just kind of gives it a, some additional marketing beyond telling people about it and posting on Twitter. So.
Arif, I know you wanted to say it, but Jeremiah, I didn't even know this was the first one. It seems really organized. So you had a few sales right at the $9.99 is what you're saying with this last one.
Yeah, within the first 2 hours, we had 2 sales.
Yeah, and
very nice.
And some of the, I mean, I'm looking at some of the 4-letter, and of course, there's no reason to box yourself in and only do the $9.99, because if some of us say, hey, I think I got something that's would probably sell pretty fast at $9.99. So why don't we start these at $5,000? Or I mean, I know you would be open to different things. I like the idea. I mean, I know you're thinking about if you're offering other people's names. I think they need to be obviously transferred to, say, your GoDaddy account, to your, of course, over your registrar. But I mean, with regards to if it's somebody who wants to offer them and they're at Namecheap, you have one of these accounts where basically you're going to have to tell people you want to sell them. You're going to have to trust us, okay? And we're trusting you a little bit, but we need access. No bullshit about the person having a problem getting a name. So before Eric, ask you a few things, Jeremiah. So if I pick a name, well, tell me a couple things. One, what are the increments that it drops how often, and then what are my payment options when I select to go ahead and buy one?
Sure. Right now, the current auction that's going on is the price drops hourly, and right now the price drop based on the calculations is about $5.80 an hour, because of our start point and our end point. And then the buy now function, you just click buy now, and it gives you the ability to use a wallet balance if you already had a catches account and you had a wallet balance, or you can add a card or use a current payment method on file, or you can use crypto. You can use Bitcoin, Ethereum, or USDC, and all of that functionality is in play. Obviously there's a delay in payment on crypto, so what we've done is part of the payment process, you basically have a 15-minute window to report your crypto transaction to us, and then what happens is when you initiate the transaction, it actually will pause the ability for anybody to buy that name for about 20 minutes. So you have a 15-minute window to pay with crypto, and then after 20 minutes, the domain is available back to anyone else if they don't if someone doesn't complete their crypto transaction.
Nice feature. I mean, that's important
Yeah,
because one, you want to reserve it, but yet you don't want to take it away when someone just defaults or just doesn't pay. So,
yeah.
smart move to think
And
about.
I'm the lead developer on this. I don't know. I told people in the past, I basically was laid off as a software developer in February, and I just decided not to go back into the workforce. I've been focusing on just this for now, and so that's why I've been able to, ebb and flow and launch new functions and features pretty quickly.
And that's why you're going on vacation to Indiana Beach instead of fucking Maui.
We're going to Montana.
Oh,
We're going out in the middle of nowhere. So,
I got you. Hey, yeah, I'm setting up a
but
Dow LLC in
I'll have
Wyoming.
my Starlink with me and and still be doing development.
Hey, Arif, what did you want to say to Jeremiah? I have other
Well,
question or
first
two.
thing was like, congrats on the first two sales off the bat. That's a good sign, right? Because
Thank you.
a lot of people can make like, and I've talked to you, right? Like I've total confidence in you'll make a good platform, right? But then a lot of people have tried this that fails because they don't have the eyeballs, right? But because you have already an existing user base, that really changes the game. That means that you can actually have a chance of making something interesting, right? For both for buyers and sellers, right? Because at the end of the day, you need to have a critical mass of both. And if you don't have either, then it tapers off very, very quick, right? Like so Name Liquidate was based on a few emails I exchanged with the old owner of Epic. And I told him, I go, look, it's great, this and that. We just not give him lots of ideas, but I go, the most important thing is that when you launch, you need to make sure all your buyers are there and all your sellers are presenting, decent, good, solid names. And then it would really could take off. And they didn't really do that, right? Kind of did a soft launch and this and that. Like, it's okay to do a soft launch just to beta test, make things are working okay. But like when you're gonna get going, it's like I told them, and they didn't do that. And it's too bad because it was a cool system, and the commissions were lower than most other places. So it's just I know you're going to do well. Like I've talked to you about this. You've showed it to me. So I'm not going to say too much. I'll let you say what you need to say. But I'm just saying, like I'm hopeful. And it's like I don't say that often. You guys know I'm pretty picky on a lot of things in this industry. But there's I'm looking forward to seeing where you're going with this. Let's put it that way.
Thank you. My business partner and I have a pretty good relationship. I met the guy on Clubhouse, and we just connected. Niraj Verma is been a great support for me from a letting me do my own thing and doing it at my own pace. And we built catches for us, and then we're like, well, we should try to let other people use it. And we've had some pretty good success. Customers have had some pretty good success. So, and we haven't marketed. We haven't done any real outbound marketing, and advertising, and it's all been kind of just word of mouth and organic growth, which I think is why we realized that we built our MVP a couple years ago using an offshore team and a real limited slow crappy platform. And now since we've relaunched the new site as of June, we're seeing an influx of new customers. We're seeing a lot of more search engine traffic coming in from just random people. Like we had somebody create an account the other day and they caught their exactmatch.com upgrade from a .shop that they were built on. So it's cool. I'm hopeful that it's going to continue just to organically grow and we won't have to really put a big investment into marketing and advertising.
Well, I'm going to help promote it as long as I'm doing some stuff because I love what you're doing. And I wanted to say, since I remember the day when you met Niraj on Clubhouse, and it was beautiful. And then in the back channel, of course, you were making fun of him. But anyway, I don't want to ruin the relationship just yet. But I invited Niraj up, and he didn't want to come up. So I'm going to ask you. So we'll ruin this relationship right now. And that is, well, what's he do? What's Niraj do? I mean, you're busting your ass. It's unbelievable. You got kids, a family. I talked to Niraj. He's like, you still got the book from Forrest Gump? I got some extra money. Well, what's Niraj doing on the daily? For catches.
Niraj,
For catches.
so Niraj is he does a lot of the administrative back end work for me to kind of to free me up to do my daily stuff. At a point in time, our system was pretty manual on the back end, where we would actually process names that were caught that day manually, and now we're with the new application and the API functionality that I've built out, it's more of an automated process. So I'm gonna have to find some more stuff for him to do at some point here, but yeah, he's and we're building other stuff too. We have a registrar that we're trying to slowly build in the background, and then we're also working on a marketplace with AI generated outbound marketing functionality. But that's all just stuff that isn't ready for real time. Plus we put a big investment into
You are rough and
tabcommerce.com,
ready.
which is kind of like a Shopify type application where people can build their own online stores. So that that's another focus that we need to focus on at some point. So
You're like Tom and Jerry, Siskel and Ebert. Hold on. Rough and ready. You are
yeah,
rough and ready. You're tough and steady. Always rough and ready. That's you
and
and Niraj. Okay.
and I don't know if we're also throwing around the idea of potentially rebranding catches because we've been having a hard time acquiring the .com. So and we don't know what that's going to look like. Whether we merge into our any domain brand and just become that as a registrar and a holder and stuff. And I thought it was interesting that you did bring up the when we do let customers sell names through our auctions and stuff. I think we already have a pretty big massive network of custodial domain accounts. So it's more of just the continuing to build the trust factor that people are going to be like, oh yeah, and part of that is becoming an accredited registrar, so that people go, oh, they have a bigger skin in the game than just they're not going to steal our domain if we transfer it into their account, that kind of stuff.
I'm thinking of a domain name that you might want to pick up. I won't even say it in front of the room because these losers will take them. I mean, when I say losers, I'm talking to, you know who I'm talking to. I can start shouting out names. Hey, okay, so I don't know why Larry left. He came on stage real fast. I wanted to say to Larry, if he's still here, LS left. Maybe he left the room. I never get to talk to him, so I just wanted. I liked his comment the other day. He's like, "I'm going to be 75. You can't keep these names forever." I like that he's trying to tell people the truth. What are you going to do? I'm not the only one that's aging every day. I turn. I'm not even going to say. It's embarrassing here in a couple months. So,
It's just a number, man. It's just a number.
yeah, right. People say that. No, you don't look young. Okay, let me just say that. I lost weight. Now it just doesn't matter, Jeremiah. Okay, so you're skinny old. You're skinnier old. But yeah. So I'm gonna. If you're lucky enough, I mean, I invited some people, but I want you to come up here anyway. Raise your hand if I didn't invite you because I'm practicing roasting people. Okay, so Larry, I'm gonna be letting you
Roast me,
go. Well,
roast me, bro.
well,
I,
first I
I
wanted.
actually was just listening, and I entered the room on a different device, and it put me up on the stage. But
Yeah, good.
hello, everybody, and I hope everyone has a great summer, and that we sell some domains.
Well, I wanted to ask you about that comment, Larry. Okay, so did the birthday already come and go?
Yes, it was last Saturday.
Okay, so
So yeah, all of a sudden you wake up and you have either hundreds of names or thousands of names, and you'll never sell them in your lifetime. So again, just to sort of repeat what I said last week, is we have to be reasonable and make deals.
well, so it's always been. I mean, have you had any sales in 2024? I mean, 2025, either one, I guess. What was your most
No,
recent sale?
2024 I did, but not 2025 yet.
Yeah, it's
Hanging
been
in there.
slow for a lot of people, but 2025. It's I can't even. I mean, there's nothing to roast there. No sales. We all know. You know, we were going to talk about Larry. Is and Arif's right, and I said it last week, and that is I said you know, he's like some domainers year after year, they're not making any money. You know, I will say this: at least you're honest with yourself of knowing, hey. I need to sell some names, pay for renewals. But Larry, I remember back in the clubhouse days when you were the funnest for me was when you're mad that GoDaddy wasn't giving you a fucking rep. So those few months or that year or two, that was really put a smile on my face when I'd go for a run thinking, so Larry's got it worse than me. Okay, so
No, it
anyway,
was worse than me. Not only did they not give him one, it was worse. He had one and they took it away. That's like was bonkers.
Well, I finally got one thanks to Michael Seiger, who was kind enough to pull some strings while he was still there, and was a real nice guy. And then, of course, they let him go, and then they gave me someone else, and then they just dropped me because they only want premier people, as far as I know, that are buying from the auctions or on the aftermarket. That's what they told me. So
yeah, Larry,
It
I
used
have
to be it used to be $5,000 in transactions per year. But obviously, like if somebody's just renewing domains and they're in a discount club and they're making $1 per domain, that's really like $500 profit to them a year. Which it still is nice, right? Because you probably get buying stuff to begin with, but they changed it their threshold. Now it's as you said, it's probably more on their profit as opposed to sales because they have stuff they're selling at, like especially in the exploration stream. Well, the domains that come from GoDaddy, they're making like 100% of that. You're paying the renewal on top, but if you buy a domain at an auction for $100, GoDaddy keeps $100, right? And then there's $11 on the side where they make $1 on the renewal portion, but like it's really about the profit margins to them. But again, it's kind of you'd think they'd grandfather. No offense to your birthday, but I mean, you'd think they grandfather people who are already
Oh
existing.
wait, I
You
have
know.
no kids. I'm no grandfather.
hey, hey, we can't kick
There you go,
somebody
bro.
while they're down. And that's Larry really. But so I'm gonna kick the hell out of Ish. Ish, don't say anything just yet because Ish isn't down. But Larry, they want I got Mark Becker's my rep, and he's the rep. I know for Drew Rosner and for the guys over at Steven Sachs and basically a lot of big accounts. Sometimes I think Schwartz. I say Schwartz like Rick Schwartz. I always listen to this. He's thinking Rick likes me as about as much as he would like a step kid, I'm sure. But anyway, so my rep handles a lot of big accounts. He still messes with me. They really don't even want to anymore because I've dropped. I went from 6,500, 5,500, then down to 4,500, 3,000. I got 1,200 names. I don't buy on the aftermarket. He basically still does work with me, but Todd, they almost want to drop me. He likes me though, and but still, I'm barely, even with 1,000 names, worthwhile to mess with. And I've been doing it with them for 20, 25 years, and I host with them, and um, I don't really defend them too much. Arif was talking about how their site's messed up always, and now even I'm like, this is fucking unbelievable. But I've always been a shareholder since the IPO, so it hasn't been great. Now people act like, yeah, it's at $1.80. I don't know what it's at even at today, but this stock should be at 300. Okay, now it's me, and I feel like it's a sumo match. I see he's entered the ring. There's Ish. So Ish, tell me which of the sales were real this past 30 days, and which ones were ones you just wanted to put on your timeline. What's up?
That's funny. I don't think I've ever put up a fake sale. I don't see what the point is. I try to be very transparent, because I know how hard it is domaining. I host a show every weekend, and first thing I ask people is, "What did you guys sell this week?" And usually it's like crickets, myself included. So I've noticed that it's sort of like a feast and famine game. You definitely have harvest periods where what you rip you sow, or you sow what you rip, or however that goes. You guys know what I mean. But I just happen to have a very, very exceptional month. I think it was long overdue. A lot of my sales have been outbound, but I just happen to have a lot of consistent inbound sales in June. It's funny because every time, speaking about GoDaddy reps, I have this. running joke on my rep where I tell them, look, who do I need to complain to so I can get a sale? It's funny that more I complain to them, like, look, what's going on? I'm not seeing any inbound sales. Then I suddenly start getting sales. So the first sale that I had was sort of like I just wanted to fill something. It was promptuary.com. I think that one sold for 1,500. I always had an offer for it. They kind of like flaked at 2,000. So I just said, look, I'm dropping this down to 1,500 if they want to accept it, and it worked. And then I got an offer for testosterone test kit, which was a hand reg, because last year I sold testosteroneshots.com to a doctor that I know locally here in LA. And they're doing really good with that. So I did some keyword research and noticed that testosterone test kit had a lot of search volume. I hand registered it, and I hand registered the plural. So when the offer came in, it came for the singular, and I asked the GoDaddy rep, will they accept paying 10 grand for the plural and singular? For no, it was 12 grand, and then they counted at 10. So that was cool. And then I woke up one day after getting bashed by a bunch of people that are ignorant to domain names, and thinking I cyber squatted a name. I was going to bed and I just told God, man, I need a break, man. I just got beat up by this soy boys, man. And I woke up the next day. I guess I have some good karma to a $20,000 sale, bankruptcyai.com. Bruce sold his version of that for aibankruptcy.com for 3,500. It was one of those names I don't even remember what I priced it at. And it was just a pleasant surprise. I purchased that name for 466. And then I think I sold a bunch of names by outbounding plasmapheresis.org, which is sort of like a medical procedure called therapeutic plasma exchange. I do a lot of research on medical stuff because I find them to be very interesting, like what's happening with medicine. Like I'm very big on biohacking. So CPE is one of those things where plasmapheresis is what it's called. And I just noticed that the .org was available. I have a few friends that are like doctors. They have disposable income. They've been sort of like inspired by what I do with domaining. And I sold it to one of them for 7 grand. And I think I sold one or two other names. I don't remember. But it turned out to be a great month. And, you get one or two of these months every year if you pick the right names.
Well, since you got a line open with the big man, hey, mention my name. Just tell him I need, and I don't need domain sales. I need some other luck. He'll know what you're talking about. The big man should know, and it has nothing to do with this fucking. Okay,
I mean, you deserve it. You give so much to the community. I think it's just karma. Like, you and I know how much effort it takes to just repeatedly and consistently do the spaces, and it's a labor of love. And no one is perfect, right? Everyone has flaws, but at the end of the day, what you give is what you get. So was I surprised that I got a $20,000 sale? No. Was I lucky? I would say so, because I could have easily priced that name at 5 grand and would have been happy with that sale. It just happened to be someone wanted that name. I had that name, evidenced by them buying the AI bankruptcy, and they bought mine, which is bankruptcy AI. And that was a seed that I planted in 2023. Back then, I bought a bunch of fucking. I mean, remember I ran into you at the airport in Austin and I was bidding on massiveai.com. I paid 5 grand for that name. I still have it. Right. So it's like, it's one of those things where I kind of like believe that keyword AI.com names will become winners. And I'm still doubling down on that. Not to compare them to like keyword.ai, but I still believe that there's a plethora of companies that will see the value of the keyword AI.com.
I like that you said plant a seed and the testosterone test kits. You got a theme going. Hey, so did you sell inventory with those testosterone test kits too? So you sold them. Here's the names, and you get 722 tests I bought from China, or something like.
Yeah, it's funny because like these names that I sell, they usually have a lot of high search volume. I sold one on the first, which was samedaybusinessloans.com. And for us domainers, like that's a long one, 4 letters. Sold that for 3,300. But maybe it's my marketing background. I felt like I gave that guy a deal. 3,300 for that name If they know what they're doing, they can easily make $5,000 to $10,000 from lead generation with a name like that. So I think it all comes down to name selection and pricing your names right. For me, the old me would have been like, no, I'm not letting that go for 3,300. But I've realized, man, there's an oversupply of names, and if you're not willing to exchange them for cash, you might just miss an opportunity that might not come back.
Well, you said that was same day payday loans?
Same day
Okay, same day
businessloans.com.
business loans. I got you. So that was same day testosterone test kits.
No,
It's
it was
like
just
get your nuts checked today.
testosteronetestkits.com. Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
okay, so no, what was interesting is right. I remember. I mean, you spending money on names and this, and of course, I remember saying, "Slow, slow." I'm like always, slow down because um, you'll get smarter each year in this
For sure.
place, and all right, and there's just so much opportunity, especially whether it's you or Arif. And what I'm saying is, you guys buy differently, smarter than I do, and that is you buy on the aftermarket names that have dropped, expired, or currently owned by somebody else. And a lot of us that try this, listen, you don't want to try registering a lot of names, and I don't know why they call it hand registering. It's just registering, just so you're registering these names, and
Well,
it really.
technically, you register all names, so you have to
Sure, but
sometimes
I mean, it's
separate
it's
it.
so it's so difficult. I mean, when I drop names and then someone picks them up, it's in a 15-year-old name. At least they're, and they might be paying a reg fee right around there. At least it was a name that's been owned off the market, or I had a price on it of at least four figures, maybe even high four figures, and now that they own it, and it's 15 years in, somebody else may have been looking and just didn't like my price, and now they can sell it for 2 grand, 3 grand, and Arif's made a success out of doing that. But okay, so I remember you spending like 5 grand on a name, but now more you spend, like you said, 466 on that one particular name. So when you're out there, and that's that adds up for a lot of domain investors. I mean, most of the guys are. Arif says like he's the cheapest domain investor, and he wants to spend 50
Proud of it.
max or less. Now I know he's spending a little bit more. I know you've been spending a little bit more, Arif, but before you go, I
Yeah.
want to ask Ish about, so what, in a nutshell, maybe just this past year, how much have you
Mhm.
spent on names on average? Like you've picked up, say in 2025, you've picked
Right.
up 200 names, spending an average of 200 per name, or what?
Oh, I know the numbers. I remember when I first came into domain investing, I was buying a bunch of, that's like kind of like a learning curve. You're just buying. You're more addicted to the catch than the kill, right? Like, oh yeah, I caught one, but you never get to really get an ROI. So that's part of the tuition. I don't even count that. But on average, I spend about 200 grand on names a year. This is directly from my GoDaddy rep. I think my peak was 225, and that's when I was like, oh shit, I need to kind of like slow down with this. So I'm a bit more intentional. I've started dropping a lot of names because that also includes renewals. You know what I mean? Which is kind of like the hidden cost that people don't understand adds up. Every name is a subscription, right? So it's like, you're waking up and GoDaddy just dinged you for 250 bucks or $300 for a bunch of renewals for just being trigger happy a year ago. You know what I mean? So for me, I'm always trying to clip out those dead weight and replace them with names that have a higher probability of selling. So I still do a lot of hand reg. Like testosterone kit was a hand registration, but I call them more of an intelligent hand registration. It's because I discovered that the data backed it up. Testosterone test kit is an advertised pair of keywords. It's also a high CPC keyword combination, right? I sold a AI SLD. I can't share the CLD because I promised the buyer I want for 25 grand. And I sold some to Aaron Whitfield. I sold him a pair of them, two of them actually. And those were hand registrations as well. So, I thought AI SLDs would do well, and that was a bet that sort of paid off. And there are situations where I'll speak with someone. They wanted a name that was maybe 9, 8 grand. Maybe a friend would be like, "Talk to Ish is the domain guy," and based off what they tell me, I'll just go, "Oh shit! Why don't you just buy this name? I can get it for you for way less than what you're willing to pay." and they'll go, oh wow, you could do that. They don't. They're not in our echo chamber. So paying $2,000 for a name per my advice versus something that they thought was what, 9 grand. They value that cost savings, and those type of names. I might have picked it up as a hand reg, um, right after I spoke with them a week before, or whatever the case might be. So I just make intelligent decisions like that, in my opinion. That I feel like if someone out there doesn't understand domains and they're willing to spend 10 grand and I'm able to get them a name for $1,000, they're saving money. I'm making a little bit of money and I'm happy with that. Some people feel like, oh, that's a bad thing, whatever. I've never been the best behaved person in the world. I'm flawed like a motherfucker, but I like money. And I feel
Hey,
like,
you need to use part of that on your next date. I make a lot of intelligent decisions. I feel like I'm sitting across the table. It's like some woman.
real
She's like,
shit, you have
listen to this
to.
guy. She's
Because look, it costs a lot of money to keep a portfolio. And you spend a lot of time and energy learning what you know. So if someone, wants to debate the ethics of me selling a name that I hand registered for a quick profit, that's a preference thing. But for me, I've discovered some of those opportunities just talking to people in my circle. And so every month or so, like I feel like that's what I did with plasmapheresis. It was a hand registration, but I know for a fact that my research was what made me discover the hand registration. And the person I sold it to for 7 grand doesn't give a shit about what I pay for it. They're thinking about what they can do with it. And one plasmapheresis session will pay for way more than what they charge $15,000 per session for that, right? And it's a machine they hook up just to sort of like clean your blood. And so I'm not a doctor, but I can get some of that medicine money by being a domainer.
hey,
So I just feel like the more research you do, the more you discover opportunities.
yeah, Jeremiah. What do you want to say to Ish?
I was going to say, stop it, get some help. Just kidding. I'm just kidding. When you were talking about spending $200,000 on domains, I was that Michael Jackson or Johnson meme kind of just popped in my head.
How much do you
No,
spend? I think we
I
all, we all, we all. Some of us spend so much we don't even realize what we
yeah,
spend. And this is registrations and renewals. I mean,
and
think
then
about it. I have almost 3,000 names in my portfolio, and not all of them are .com, right? So
yeah,
off the top, that's what 30, 35, 36,000, in fixed costs just to
yeah.
keep
And
that
in the
portfolio.
in the grand scheme of things, that's not a lot compared to some other people in the industry.
Oh
It's
yeah, but
crazy.
motherfuckers have
Like my my
65,000
my
names.
business partner, that guy is insane. He's I bet by the end of the year that guy will have 10,000 names. So, um, what real
Well,
quick, I was looking at the data in catches, and I based on your AI.com sale, um, we caught in the last year 142 keyword AI.com names for customers. So there's something to it. So, hey, Todd, I got to bounce out. My wife's giving me some dirty looks. We got to get finished packing here. So,
That's just how she
good
looks.
trip.
Okay, and now I've stepped across the line when I say that about my wife. Tell your wife I said hello. Hey, Brad, thanks for joining us. But first, we got to go to Amit. And then True Domains because we try to
oh
go in the
man,
line here.
hey, Amit.
Hey, Amit, what's happening? What comment do you have or question or what's up? Nice seeing you. I'm like I throw it right to the person. Amit, you're on mute. I'm not going to do anything until you speak now.
I
Uh,
see
There you go.
off mute, but I don't hear anything.
that's not how my name's spoken, so I was just
Oh, I'm
a
sorry,
bit
Amit.
confused. It's Amit.
Amit.
Anyways, Todd, thank you so much for the mic. I just joined in, and I want to say Happy 4th of July to everybody. It's almost that time here. So, what was the question again?
Oh, it's just your comment. So, is it Amit like rhymes with comet? Because that's why I say Summit when I ask Summit. I ask him up here too. But say your name again, and I'll remember it forever. What is it? How do you pronounce it?
It's Amit.
Amit. Okay, I thought I had it right.
I've interacted with you a bit. I think you're a customer at Catches, and you've been in, I'm in a couple WhatsApp groups with you. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah, I'm catching domains at catches.
I got you. So you
Look
can
at
Woohoo!
the
come up
list
here. You
of
come here to
domains that are
correct me,
dropping today. I'm
Amit. Well, no,
catching
I
everyone.
wondered. Do you have any comments? I mean, I see you around too. I like you're a domain investor. You have a lot of. I know you share a lot in some other rooms, so I wanted you to share something here. What's happening domain wise?
Domain wise, I recently tried this parking service Giant Panda. So I posted the result for it. Now I'm listing my names everywhere, trying to get some leads. Right now, I have somewhere around 3,000 names, and I get like one or two leads a day, but most of them they don't mature. So basically, most of my domains they are listed at after Nick and Atom. So I'm not venturing anywhere else. Now I plan to change that. So that's what's happening with me these days.
Thanks. I mean, I was watching some of your posts and I sort of followed that you were, after Nick and Adam, and now you're thinking about making a few changes. Well, all right, well, stick around. You can chime in, but it's good to, you know, hear from you because I don't know if I've talked with you. I think I have probably crossed paths sometime, but this is the room, domain investing, DNX show. It's, for all of us to share that domain name law show I do. That's, little more structured and no one can say a effing thing. Hey, so Alex, what's happening? What are you doing today?
I gotta bounce, Todd.
Hey,
Real
thanks,
quick.
Jeremiah. Thanks a lot.
Yeah,
Be safe.
thanks for having me. And again, like Ahmed said, everybody have a good 4th of July.
Yep. And
Stay safe. Love you.
I'll be promoting
And,
catches
and
for
Stay
those
there,
things.
Matt.
Yeah. Go ahead, Alex. What's up?
Hey everybody, GM. What's going on, Todd? Got Ish in the house, Arif, Amit. What's going on?
Well, I got it. And I always, dox you because when we were in Vegas, I feel like I'm sitting next to you on the couch again over at Paul's place. Hey, what's happening? What are we doing? And you're like looking at me like, you're just a little son of a bitch, aren't you? Hey, but no, we had a good time. I can't wait to cross
Yeah, that
paths
guy
again.
he can't handle his weed. Todd, you must have got him high.
Hey, we don't talk.
Everybody's cleaned up since then. I've been
Hey,
taking
that, what happens in Vegas, man?
yeah, it was
He gets high at every conference, and I always catch him. I'm like, why
Hey,
the fuck
come on now.
are
Yeah.
your eyes looking like this?
he's got this spaces stuff handled, meaning he's when he goes on these spaces and you think he sounds like a radio DJ like Larry, they sound like really smooth
He
as
gets all
silk, and
more.
then you
He gets
catch
all
him in
serious when
person
he's
and you
high.
all you do
Yeah.
just make a quick move like Barry Sanders and he fucking falls down. You're like,
Was he
what?
wearing a turtleneck?
I think
Hey, now we don't have to give all that information, man.
I think he might, but it is so
My whole wardrobe.
we talk about meeting people face to face, and you do always remember. That's why I always make an impact. I do it when I'm going to the Emmys. I go to these big award shows. I'm a big timer, right? Well, I do it just like when I met Ish, just like when I met you, Alex. I try to make an impact so they know. Yeah, you remember that time I headbutted you? Yeah, that was me. But I mean, so that's why.
This is Todd. Hey, we're smoking in the back. Are you coming?
No, no, yeah. Hey, it's been a year now, nearly. I haven't even smoked any. I don't smoke weed anymore. I just took a break, like I did with drinking. Um, Basically, I was building some companies here, and I really had to eliminate working in the weed space. And when I wasn't working in it, then I'm like, listen, I'm not going out there trying to, mess with it. It's just weird. But anyway, so I haven't drank for 33 years, and now I haven't, smoked weed for a year. I'm still slicker than ever. So yeah, watch it. Now Ish, if I show up at this your Domainer Expo September 16th and 17th, which I plan to be there, I was telling you I was maybe out of the country for a couple months, and it might even affect. I didn't want to say what's going on at NamesCon, but really right now I'm planning on going to the Emmys on the 14th. Then I'll go to Ish's event on the 16th and 17th, and then I'll go to. I'm not going to Dubai Days, anything like that, but I will be in November at NamesCon handling a couple big sessions. They got me on the first day, with John Berryhill on one thing, and then a bunch of lawyers and whatever. I mean,
I'm like the most laziest domain or event organizer. If you are thinking about coming to Domain Expo, I just want to set the right expectation. It's not like this large event. It's just a bunch of us hanging out, always laid back. I don't even want more than 60 people there if I can help it, because then it becomes work. I'd rather just host friends and we go to a nice dinner the day before and just have a session of true insights being shared. I like just minimizing the expectations for people so people understand what it is. You're coming to Vegas to meet the coolest people in the domain business that take the time to come out there. I know Paul's going to be there because he's a Vegas native. True Domains. Braden is going to be there. Hopefully, Todd joins us. I'm going to be announcing the speakers next week. I was going to do it this week, but Matt from Unstoppable always supports. I'm talking to the founder of the CEO of Dynadot. He's checking the schedule. I just try to curate people that are worth meeting and you can learn from. That's really it. You know what I mean? It's nothing crazy. The de facto industry gathering is NamesCon. Highly recommend it. But if you're looking for, if you just happen to have the time and the availability, come out of Vegas. You have a good time. There's nothing wrong with meeting people in person because it really, really strengthens the bond and increases your sales. To be honest with you, I don't know how that works, but it just works.
Well, if you're wanting a small turnout, you're on track to do exactly that with the way you're marketing this thing.
Yeah, I'm
So it,
definitely
I'm
not
just
interested in like see when I first created the conference, my intent was to create something similar to NamesCon. And I realized I don't need to create the biggest event. Like I have other events that I put in that energy into. Like I'm still learning domaining. So if I have 50, last year we had about 30 people and we had it was for me honestly, I had a better time than the first year and I still managed to make good money. Thankful to the sponsors, you know. But for me, it's just about getting people together and giving them a quality experience. So, like the last year, we had a nice, intimate dinner, and that was a highlight for me, right? And then we had one day of really, really intense learning, which was better than dragging it out over 2 days and looking for people because they're gambling in the casino somewhere. So, just shrinking it I'd rather call it a domain mastermind than an expo, but it's already branded as an expo, so it is what it is. I just want to. It's such a small industry. We really think this is a big industry, but it's such a small industry that expecting to go. Even NamesCon is a small conference. I don't think they had 250 actual domainers in NamesCon. I don't know what the real numbers are, but and that's as big as it gets. So I've just learned to just kick back and have fun. I'm gonna keep doing it every year. I feel like it's sort of like my way of fast tracking my learning and connecting with people. And as long as I break even, I'm happy with it.
yeah, call me when it's over. Hey, Brad, Brad. So you're going to be at NamesCon because he's South Florida. I've never met Brad in person. I look forward to that. I mean, somewhat, Brad. I know I need to reach out to him,
Yeah,
but what's up,
that's
Brad?
a mutual somewhat. Okay. No, I would like that happen. And um, I wanted to mention when Ish was talking, there's a couple of things I wanted to bring up that, first of all, this is just my perception of it. Ish is like an innovator in this field because he's coming into this space as a marketer. You know what I mean? And I don't know how many people in our field are real marketers. And we are kind of like, we in the beginning it was you buy names and then people come and buy them. You know what I mean? And that's changed completely. So what he's bringing into this about outbounding and research, those are significant things for domainers to engage in. And then the other thing I wanted to mention is Ish, when you were saying that you're talking to your buddies or and they want a name and it's expensive and then you get it for them, a lot cheaper. That's that's your skill set. You know what I mean? That's kind of like your consulting fee. So whatever it is you sell it for, it's what you do. You know what I mean? So that's a legitimate exchange. Plus, they're going to benefit from it more than they ever even imagined. You know what I mean? So I think that's a big solid.
Appreciate it, Brad.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to say in the beginning. Now about the names con, Todd, I would definitely. I've been to a couple, and they are very good. I live in north of Tampa, but I was brought up in Miami, and I know the whole scene there. And I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to go or not. I'm working on it, but I'm definitely looking forward to meeting you, Todd, and anyone else who's going to be there if I do go, because it's really about people. It's a people business that deals with digital assets, and it is a super small group that are in this industry. Look at this great call with some of the big, great people on it. There's 62 people. You know what I mean? Just think about how minuscule people that have knowledge about the value and potential usage of these internet assets. It's like a foreign language to most people, and that's one of the reasons why we're having a hard time selling them, because there's so few people that really get it. This is my opinion. It's about education. It's about, sharing the awareness that in your own phone, from your own house, you can run a global enterprise. Most people don't even have that level of open-ended conception, but it's about the perception, and it's been watered down so bad because most people think it's like get quick rich scheme, and you buy something for nothing and then you take advantage of anyone else who buys it because you try to get 50x, from it. And that's not a good, you know goodwill marketing image to present to the world.
God, you're getting me all excited there, though. I was thinking, that's me. Now oh, that's not good. Okay, so that's not me. Just kidding, Brad. Hey,
No, I know that's kind of
hey,
we
no,
want that.
in being night. Listen, you would love. I sure hope to see you there. But I want to tell everybody that's in the crowd listening. Yeah, go to NamesCon. I'm like Tom Cruise. I pretend like I've known you forever when I see you, and I'm like, hey, and I'll make fun of other people. Like I'll point to them and say, you know that person? Yeah, they don't. They shit their pants. They're standing there with shit in their pants. But it is fun. You can't believe the camaraderie, and it is mostly fun just bouncing around. I love seeing people and acting like. You think I was waiting for you to come up to me? I'm gonna come up to you. Yeah, I remember talking to you online. You were real smart, and now I'm here and you
Todd, are
don't have
you
anything
like
to say.
you want to be like the Don Rickles,
That's right,
right?
Todd Rickles. That was my. I did have a
Oh,
stage
really,
name, Todd
Todd
Rickles.
Rickles? That's your
And then
your
and
AKA.
then the old guy had to say to David Spade, then Don was alive, he's not related to me. Shut the fuck up. We're at Dan Tana's. I'm like, the fuck. I'll use your name and his name and somebody else's name. And then of course anyway. But no, was a big fan of him. Who else? By the way, Triumph, the insult comic dog, right? So his the guy that really does, who is Triumph. He may be helping me. I mean, I don't even need his help, but was gonna. I told him, I'm doing this thing at NamesCon and I want to roast a few people. And he's putting on a new podcast, and he's like, hey, one thing we're doing is we're helping people write speeches like at weddings. We're not helping comics. We're not trying to help comics do any roasting. But if you are giving a speech at a wedding, or you're addressing a company, we're helping you, with your. So I said, hey, I know a guy worked with him. I'm like, hey, I'm going to do this NamesCon thing. Let me give you 10 of the big timers. Here's their bios. I'm going to fucking shred them anyway. But if you guys want to come up with something, it's got to be better than Ricky Gervais. And they're like, well, no sweat. But anyway, no, looking to
You know,
really
you
have
know what is a good idea, perhaps, Todd, is to. 'Cause I just was doing this morning about putting in a prompt about getting a haiku back. Okay, so because it's like 3 lines, maybe if you put in some prompts about some of the you know roasting type of put down comments, you could get short 3 line responses that you could pick up a couple words from, because it's really succinct.
right.
It's
Yeah, I know what a
it's
haiku
meant.
is. I'm more of a limerick guy. But hey, no, I
Okay,
gotcha.
okay.
But no, and I'll just write a big long poem, and as I'm going through it, letting people know, yeah, now you're excused. Get up and walk out of here before. But no, we're gonna have a good time. Listen, it is fun. It is, we all know small community ish. When you were talking about who come around your place, listen, there's no bigger domain investor than Braden. Okay, face the music here, and this guy does it the normal way. He spent. If you guys don't know Braden Pollock, he spent 12.5 million. He tells you 12 in the last 3 years on domain names. he has had some of the biggest sales. Odyssey.com was one of them. I think it was like 6 million. He said, don't tell anybody. He didn't tell me, but I was like guessing. I'll go to lunch with him every once in a while, and he acts like every time he's like, I think I'm going to look at my phone. And he'll act like, how did we get it? Why are we here? And I said, because it's close to fucking where we both live. It's like we barely like each other. It's like we should just meet at a Jiffy Lube when we're getting our cars done, so I can say hey. And he's like, I'm not interested. He always is willing to meet up with me, and then we get together, and he acts like, what? Why did we meet? And it's like, who gives a shit if we both are in domains? And I'm like, I'm with you. Well, you're
He's
smart.
like the most supportive role model in the space. I don't think Braden misses any conference. Matter of fact, I was supposed to do Domain Expo this year earlier, and I decided to push it back till September to give him more time. And Braden couldn't attend the other date, and that was a big part of why I said I'll push it back because I personally learned so much when Braden speaks because I get to interview him, right? And then it's like this guy's like it gives you little words of wisdom outside of the public. Like he'll pull you aside and say, "Do this way," and I value those moments. Like there was a conference that D3 had in Los Angeles. It was a small gathering, maybe 30, 40 people were there. And, he allowed me to speak on a panel with him. So I really value his humility, his knowledge, and just a cool guy. You know what I mean? And, the same with the Sherpas, like same with guys like you. They're for me, it's not there's so many people that are in this space that wants to learn but they're not willing to put in the work. They don't show up every day. You have to show up every day in this space. You have to attend those events. You have to be vulnerable. You have to ask questions from people that will give you the real deal answer and take it in the chin when it hurts. That's a bad name. Those are not good names. And I've realized with this mini platform that I have that some people just don't understand that you're going to pick bad names to be successful. That's just part of the game. And so when I've learned to be a bit more careful in how I give people feedback because sometimes it comes off as brash and direct, but that's how I like to receive feedback. So events are a place where you don't have to, get that feedback in sort of like a public setting, right? There are people, they'll come in my post and they'll leave a name and I'll be like, what made you buy that name? I'll go take a dump and come back, and the guy already deleted the comment. Like I was really trying to get an understanding. People get embarrassed when you tell them the truth. So I really look forward to domain conferences because there are people there that I can pull to the side and be like, hey, this is actually my portfolio. What do you think I should price his names for? And I've really benefited from that feedback. I did that at NamesCon. I did that the last time I saw Braden. And I'm always going to do that when I have an opportunity to meet people that I can learn from.
Great, good for you. Hey, no, as you know, I agree. And Braden, and I'll respect him. I think when we get together for lunch, I always ask him these questions about domain business. I want to know this. What do you think about this? Are you investing in this? What was that sell? I didn't get. And then I think he wants more of a personal relationship with me, and I prefer to keep it business. So probably that's where if he was listening to this, he'd think
Todd,
this guy can't be
Todd.
fucking more wrong.
I think you said he stopped smoking, man.
Yeah, but no, I was saying seriously about Braden, no bigger domain investor, and he's on a panel with Mike Mann at NamesCon, and it was my idea for that panel, but they're like, Todd, what are you going to do? You can't be part of everything, and I'm like, I know, but it's fun to, but because it was my idea. I said these guys with these big portfolios, like Mike, like Braden, and there's a few other gentlemen who normally don't like to talk. Steve Kennedy's one of them. He's fucking just a great domain investor. Probably like one of the most like pure domain investors. The guy started in college. Now he's 35, 40 years old. 40. He's got a kid named Todd. And basically he's grown his portfolio. He's just over 100, I think about 120,000 names. I only get to talk to him every couple of years. He doesn't, he talks to other people. He doesn't talk to me. But he's a great domain investor. But I said, that's what you want. You want to have. And I said, I'm busy doing these other things, but I want to, if I was the one, I was telling the names kind of folks, if I was the one, I would do a shotgun panel, or have these where you have these real fast questions, because I go down and ask all you guys, Mike Mann, what is this? And I don't want to hear the bullshit. Boom, Braden, come on, don't fuck her, not treat these guys. We need to get data from these guys. And it's a 40-minute session and Josh, where's my co-host today? He said he might stop in here. Where in the fuck is Josh? But anyway, he's another one who I was thinking if you had 4 or 5 guys on that panel, we want to know, and we want to know about their expenses, right? Mike Mann, you got these big sales, and I think I know why he prices certain things with high prices. He has reasons. How does he come up with these prices? But then also the expenses we want to know. And I said, I want to have the Rayberries, that's the guys that run Turn Commerce. They got a big portfolio, 4.5 million names. You're spending 50, 60, 70 million a year on renewals. You're a domain investor. Forget about running NameBright and Dropcatch. I'm interested in your domain investors. You're out there still buying. How do you price all these things at huge domains? So anyway, Braden and Mike Mann, you're certainly going to be on that first day talking. And well, I cannot wait to anyway, it is fun at that event. There's everybody and anybody, still the same folks in this business. But Arif, so I wanted to ask you, well, first I want to get to the Circle Payments Network. I just when I saw that domain sell for $29,000, and Circle, of course, is a company that partnered with Coinbase to create this USDC. It's basically their stable coin. And I've been spending a lot of time, building some things with Coinbase, really focusing on transactions with USDC. But anyway, so somebody sold this domain name, Circle Payments Network, for $29,000, if we believe it's real, which I guess, who knows. But what would you, I guess, Arif, I wanted to ask you first, and then the other comments, of course. Well, what would you say to somebody that owns, did they own it before this company became famous? But what do you think about investing in these type of names? Basically,
There must be
trademarks.
something else there because like I wouldn't have bought that for $5. Like Circle Payments, maybe. Yeah, that's a decent domain. Circle Payment Network. Like, come on.
Yeah,
That's
payments, even with an S. It doesn't. That's why we're all skeptical when someone posts something on fucking.
Well, it could be SEO value, right? That SEO value is liquid, right? That not like other domains, but like if there's SEO juice in there, then that could justify that sell easily, right? Depending on the traffic it's generating and what kind of leads you can, or links you could put on there to make a profit. So,
So
but
I don't mean to cut you off, but this is one of those things where you have to do the research. Like Circle is a huge crypto platform. Circle Payments Network is their H1 tagline when you go on circle.com. They describe themselves exactly as Circle Payments Network. They are probably the leading protocol when it comes to like the whole
yeah,
stable coin thing. Like you're talking about $190 trillion cross-border payment market, right? So from our little domainer perspective and echo chamber, we look at things based off different standards, but 29,000 is a drop in the bucket for them. And I'm sure they would have paid
Well, sure
$290,000
is.
if
Okay,
that's
so
what it was
so
but
so
priced at.
they also might
assuming,
pay
hold on,
$2,000 for
Eric.
USD.
So say assuming, I was assuming that there was, so you're right on the website and it says, and I haven't even went there, but so that term they use exactly that. But I didn't see. I will go now to see when did somebody pick it up. But still, it's like a total target. But I guess what we're saying as domain investors sometimes that they basically targeted this one company and it turned out to be successful. But how do you feel
Yeah,
about after?
look at the risk reward though. Like, what do you risk? By to me, that's like trend investing. It's like, okay, there's been a lot of talk about stable coins. The Trump administration is really, really bullish on crypto. And someone probably said, let me just take a bet on this, and they woke up to a sale. I mean, how is that different from me selling bankruptcyai.com for 20 grand, right?
Well,
Someone saw
bankruptcy
value.
AI is a generic term, right? But whereas this in this case, it might not be a mark, right? So here, what you said first earlier is the most important thing. Do the research, right? Like for me,
Yeah.
I don't know Circle. I don't know if this is a mark that they use that could be considered a legal trademark or not. So like
They don't care about 29 grand. Their lawyers cost that just to file the
Yeah,
paperwork.
Sure. So
yeah,
the
that's
domain
a
was
very good
registered.
point.
Go ahead,
We have
Brad.
no idea. We have no idea how much money these end users have, on almost any of the domains. And just with this respect, and I think Arif might agree with this. Owning the tagline that a company uses or that you use or you think has potential, that's a good domain name to have.
Well, yeah, but hold on. Buy more, pay less. Yeah, that's a fucking tagline to have their mark in it. Circle Payments Network. So I'm going to tell everybody, including all the people on the fucking panel. Yeah, so you can go ahead and do something like this, but still, it's like buying Gucci handbags. And believe it, in a UDRP, which I agree, the risk is only so you lose the domain name. Now, of course, you don't want to have a lawsuit against you, because if they decide to file an ACPA instead of the fucking UDRP, then you can lose the name plus $100,000 and maybe even some lawyer fees. But the point is, so this person registered the name back in April. Circle was already around. They didn't. They had just went public here this about 30 days ago. But the point is, when the person bought it, if they would have filed a UDRP, and they didn't, if they would have filed a UDRP, I can't imagine them not having a fantastically strong case and probably win the domain through a UDRP, because one, it's got their mark in it. The person, unless the person said, I've always done business as Circle myself, and we have a history of it, and and we have also a payment network, and we've had it predating their stuff for some reason, because there's like Circle, fucking K.
I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure they filed a UDRP. This guy would have just said, "You guys can have it." It's
No
just
doubt about it. That's a total cyber squatting on that level.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, and okay, and then let me finish by saying most of the parking platforms that have made money, it's because of trademark names. It's not because they're getting brandable traffic, some traffic, and they're turning it into stuff. Usually, it's not even product names. When you own, Ish was talking about testosterone test kits. That is going to get some traffic, and if an end user knows how to utilize it, yes, you can make it very worthwhile. But when it comes to traffic names, it's because somebody owns Amazon-login or some bullshit. That's normally how the traffic. Now the traffic companies, the parking companies, make their money, and then when they get a UDRP against they sometimes will have hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of names. Sure, they just let it go, let it go, let it go. And but anyway, so that name, Circle Payments Network, that's just, I would say the recommendation for domain investors is, if you plan on doing something like that, like you see a company come around and you're going to have opportunity like this, go to any big companies now, and you're going to see on their website they came up with a new promotion, and it might be Coca-Cola fucking sweepstakes. That's probably already taken. But the point is, you're going to see promos like that when you get somebody's name and then you add to it, and then in the UDRP, they look at the price and they figure, did you price it because of this because of this well-known mark? And they consider that. But anyway, okay, you guys are right. So if you would have got a UDRP, probably would have, either you answer and you lose it, or you just give it away. But it was certainly that's like the old days before anybody knew. Sure, you just go ahead and buy somebody else's stuff and you price it high and you hope they sell it. It's just weird. It doesn't happen. Well, it may still happen sometimes, but to see it happen and then publicly, right when Circle just went public, so we all saw that. So that's why I brought it up. $29,000. Hey,
Yeah,
Eric,
maybe Todd, maybe it actually was an example of Circle had so much money that they didn't even want it. They just wanted the name. They didn't even want to do a UDRP. You know what I
Well,
mean? That's possible.
usually what would happen is the company's a new company. They don't have all their legal people in place, whatever it is. And one person who doesn't even know what UDRP is just goes, oh, I want this domain. And they just don't know their rights. And that happens, right? That's why people infringe on trademarks in the domain industry. It makes us all look bad in a certain way, right? But the problem is that sometimes it works, right? Because sometimes either the company, as you said, has so much money, they don't want to waste the time it takes to get it in the legal way, or they just don't know, right? It's some person, a marketer, who has no idea how trademarks work or how the UDRP works, and he goes, oh, it's 19,000 or was it 29,000 or whatever it is. Like, okay, that's within our budget, and boom, and it's sold, right? And then that encourages the seller again to infringe on more trademarks, and it makes it all look bad again, and the cycle continues. But that's why it happens, you know.
Yeah, but see, the conversation we started with was people did not believe this is a valid sale. And I think that's kind of silly when we do that. It's like when you say to challenge someone's sale is such a bold thing. It to me reeks of jealousy personally. And I just always feel like if someone is showing you some sort of receipt, you honor that. Like there's no way someone's gonna show you after Nick, unless they're out of their mind, an after Nick screenshot, right?
What actually let people into her After account, and people still didn't believe her,
Yeah,
right?
that's
So
what I'm saying.
that's
Unless
the
they're out of
thing,
their
right?
mind,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Why would
And
you?
that's the thing.
Why would
But
you show an Afternic screenshot of a sale? Like Afternic should always come out and say, especially when someone challenges and say, "This is not a real sale."
yeah, you know, because there's privacy concerns. But if it's not a real sale, then Afternic, it's not a privacy thing because there's nothing
Yeah, because
to
it's fraud at that
private,
point. You know
right?
what I
Yeah, yeah.
mean?
Like if somebody makes a sale, then Afternic can't say anything because, you know, obviously privacy rights. But if somebody claims to have a sale and it's not true, well, then there's nothing private that they. But you know, at the end of the day, like I always tell people, never trust any single one sale for two reasons. First of all, you never know who is doing it, for what reason they're talking about it. But second of all, any single sale in this industry, well, almost everyone, is just dumb luck, right? But if you take them as a collective, if you take, you know, 100 or 1,000 reported domain sales, and chances are most of them are right, and you take them on aggregate and you see what the trends are, that's where it is super helpful, right? So the one-offs, I mean, there's so many one-offs in the industry, and as we saw now, right? What was the reason? It could have been SEO value. It could have been, again, with some company who just didn't understand trademarks and had tons of money, right? These things happen in this industry, and you got to be careful, because if you base your purchasing on just like one or two examples like that, then you're going to lose your shirt. But if you know, take a broad range of stuff and weigh the risks and rewards and the probabilities and all that stuff, you can do really well. But that's what people miss sometimes. Like, you know, never take a single sales report seriously, because, you know, first of all, it might not be true, and second of all, again, it's just it's hard to understand the context of the buyer, right? Sometimes some people have deep pockets, and it is what it is. Like, look, I've spent most of my life working in the casino. There's people who have money coming out of their wazoo. Like, it's just so much money. It's like they come back day after day after day, thousands and thousands of dollars, like it's nothing. And then the next person comes up and drops $200, and it's their grocery money, right? And so we don't know who's behind that, behind the wall, who's buying your domains. But that's, you know, you have to visualize who the buyers are and see what the probabilities are. And, you know, I talk about the math all the time, so I won't bore you guys, but it's really like, ask yourself, who's the buyer, and like, do they have deep pockets, or what are their pockets, right? Do you need to price your domain at 3,000 or 5,000 or 100,000, right? Or in Braden's case, 6 million or whatever it is Todd said. You know, it's just there's always appropriate price points, but you got to make sure you get them right. And it's never the same for each domain. Everyone's a little bit different.
I can tell you, people are, other investors who aren't real familiar with buying trademarks, but think, geez, I'm going to buy some Circle names and try to sell them to Circle. Looks like they're buying. Somebody may think that, and why wouldn't you? Especially if you thought maybe, in thanks UNLV.eth, he posted what you mentioned, Ish, that they actually on their website have Circle Payments Network. It's prominent, and I thought about that, Ish, too. It's like, yeah, I'm jealous of a lot of sales, basically, but this one, I wouldn't have. I did think it was real. I wouldn't have ever bought it, so it's like, not like, oh man, I could have done that, because I would have never picked up something like that. But I do think that people, I can imagine other people buying other Circle names, thinking it worked out for them. Is there anything else, maybe at the top 5, that you think Circle would want? So it does sort of give a bad, sort of not a bad reputation to the business, but it sure can send people down a path. What do you say, Jeremiah?
I saw this. I was doing some research on Circle the other day, and I dug into the trademark search for it. There's 27 live or pending word marks for Circle, and and even for Circle Payment Network, the Circle, and then Target. The Target has branded their credit card Circle as a trademark. So Target and Circle have approved registered trademarks in the same class. So I don't think they fucking care. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah, no, good point there. And I was thinking, how many others are in that class of payments? And you already said just two, and that's two big companies. So maybe you can get away with a little bit more here. I wanted to bring up that other big sale that.
But just wait,
Yeah,
Todd,
sure.
thank you. Has anyone seen the new ad? It's on Roku or whatever. It's on the cable about Google. It says the tagline is "Just ask Google." Has anyone seen that? Okay, well, whatever. As soon as I saw it, I went and looked, and justaskgoogle.com was available. I didn't buy it. I didn't want to deal with it, but it just was amazing to me. Now, and if someone did buy it, I don't think it would be a wise thing to do, or it would bring a lot of trouble. But it just shows, why wouldn't they buy that? Or how did that go by? And there's a good example of some kind of disconnect.
But the thing is, what we don't realize as domainers, like, okay, trademark thing aside, right? Is that Google, they don't need that domain, right? They just use Google. And that's what a lot of us think, like, and stuff like even the Circle Payments Network. I mean, like, I don't know what domain they use, if it's Circle Payments or Circle.com or whatever it is, but I mean, they don't really need anything more than that. And at a certain point, yeah, you want to get some brand protection, but
It's not about needing that. It's about just having it so no one else uses that name to
but
go
the thing is,
somewhere else.
but nobody can use that name, right?
Well,
Nobody can use
the
Just
point is
Ask
somebody
Google
will
because
just
I
Google
mean,
doesn't
it was
need it.
before they get it
available.
locked away, before they take it away. Brad's right. If you're say you are, it's going to be their big new product where they're going to spend so much money. Why even go a week when having somebody mislead people and possibly cause some problems when you're a big company and you should know? And then you, Brad, you also look at companies that do file UDRPs or file court cases against names, and Google is one of them, so they probably would certainly file on that. But it is true, you're so slick before you go in and start saying it over and over and over, and you're such a big company, why wouldn't somebody say, hey, let's take a look? And of course Arif is right. I have a lot of friends who they may have, like I used to do, you have 10 domain names and they all have their own little marijuana edibles, cannabis drinks. You got all this stuff. You should have one website. It's okay to have all these names if you think you're getting traffic and forward them, but you want to focus on one brand. So Arif is right in that sense, where you don't just get every fucking catchphrase that's on your website, because then you're confusing people. But then again, when it's such a big company and they're going to spend so much money on certain terms, we know GoDaddy does it. I think they bought some of their AI stuff, domain names. So you would think, geez, at least, it just shows, people don't, I don't know, even the big companies, they don't think of domain names. I mean, it's like it's like right on the front burner. We're thinking of it, certainly get that. And we get it when you're thinking about building a company on this name, and then you go ahead and register 3 or 4 others to be defensive, and you haven't even started building on the main one. But let alone people have $1 billion companies and they don't even care about it. There's several things I wanted to talk about because Josh was mentioning that to Morgan Linton, who was deciding on a name for his podcast. We'll get to it, but while we were talking about pricing on names, so the big sale was what did I have it here? It was James Booth's sale. Let me see. What the fuck was it? So big, I can't even remember.
Cloud.ai.
Yeah, Cloud.ai for 600 grand. And in his little note, it said, you're going to get your $500,000 payment. So apparently it was, I don't even know how that commission came out. 100 grand even on a $600,000 sale. I think it was after Nick. Well, anyway, he said that was a negotiated after Nick. But okay, Ish, he sold it for 600 grand, and then there was comments that that's about 2% of the .com, which would make the .com worth 30 million. I think it's a little more than 2% of the .com. That's me. I think domains really do cap out around 10, 15, 20 million. Okay, so everybody starts thinking they're just going to keep going up. Fuck no. Okay, so 10 million for a domain name is massive. I don't care what name you have, but Ish, what do you think about what is Cloud.com worth? And then any comments on that .ai sale?
I would just say it's worth 7 to 8 figures. It's it's like art. You can throw a number at it. It's what someone is willing to pay for it, right? So Cloud.ai for 500,000 net, 600,000 gross is a great sale as of today's landscape. But I think comparing it to the .com is not fair. You could even argue that he undersold that name if you want to compare it. I don't think it's there's a direct correlation, or it's 2% or 3% or 10% of a .com. There's some companies at this phase that will just not want a .com. They want the .ai. They want that embedded in their brand identity. We can call them foolish all we want, but that's just how they see it. And there are companies that will buy the .ai and the .com because they have the resources and they want to protect that brand, as much as they can. So I don't think that's accurate to say that
Yeah.
it's worth this percent of the .com. Cloud.com could sell for 20 million. It could sell for 2 million. Neither one of them is a bad price.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you wholeheartedly on that one about, sometimes people really value, they're like, we wanted the .ai. Would we buy the .com? Yeah, maybe for 5 million, but they're like, we'd rather get this one for a 500,000, 600,000. So that percentage thing really doesn't make sense. And people always have tried to say, and it really pisses you off if you're an investor in .net, .org, .io, and they're like, that's about 1% of the, shut the fuck up. I mean, first of
I thought
all,
it was different. There's different.
it doesn't,
It's the context, like how the two left and the right go together. That's what matters more than anything else, right? And sometimes it's more like, if it's AI, if you have like something that has to really do like robotics.ai, well, then the percentage, the delta between the AI and the .com will be much narrower, right? It'll be much smaller because that word really works with AI. It doesn't mean it's more valuable than .com, but it means that, okay, the value is more appropriate to the AI versus other .ai domains. So it's never going to be the same answer. In the past, like when I was listening to the podcast, 10 years ago, or not quite 10 years, but 8 years ago, whatever it was, they're always saying, okay, well, .net was supposed to be 10% and .com, but it never worked out that way, right? Sometimes it's 1%. Sometimes the .net is unsellable. There's tons of domains I sell in .com, like two-word .coms, that don't even exist in other extensions, but I still managed to sell them for $5,000 because the .com was what people want. Right. And so it's really, you look at law of averages and you say, okay, maybe the net or the AI, whatever it is, worth 5% or 2. Like we could talk in general, but again, we're talking one-offs. Like, Cloud.ai, it's a freaking amazing domain, right? And it's in context. AI, you want AI, the AI stream or whatever information you're getting to come from the cloud. The left and the right, they make sense together. It's a good match. So yeah, I think you're right, Todd. I think it's less than, or no, be more than 2%. So like, I don't know if Cloud.com would actually sell for 30 million. It's certainly higher than a couple million, but who's the buyer, right? If Google comes along, they're doing some cloud thing, they're going to spend. But if it's some other startup, they may be 4 million or 7 million, and the seller might say no. And they might be right? It's like, you don't know these things sometimes. When you're talking the millions of dollars, it's just, who knows? It's the right timing and luck. And it's these one-offs you just got to be there at the right time.
600,000 is a deal for that name.
a lot of the
Well,
people.
I don't know. Look, it is and it's not. Like, I mean, again, it might be what the buyer can afford to pay, what makes sense to them, right? Because every buyer has a different game plan, a different business model, the different business plan that they're going to put up there. And sometimes, 600,000 is the most that they should spend for that. But it doesn't mean that's what the value of the domain is to somebody else. Again, it could be, Google or whatever, Microsoft comes around and they want to do something and brand it on Cloud.ai. And they're going to spend a lot more for that because, it's more important to them. They're going to make a lot more money from it. So it really, you don't really have that control on a one-off domain basis. It's just, as we were talking about before, Todd, you got to sit back and realize, price your whole portfolio properly, balance it out, and make sure you make a profit. At the end of the day, like that's the most important thing. And if you're not making a profit, maybe you're pricing too high. You might be pricing too low, right? Maybe you're getting good volume, but the volume you're making is at such low price points that you're not covering your renewals. So there's no one hard set rule. It's just really, you got to figure it out for your portfolio and make sure at the end of the day, you make yourself a profit, because that's really what matters in the end.
Maybe I'm thinking about it during this conversation that wasn't an end user who bought it, you know, because it could be worth a whole lot more.
Exactly. And think about this cloud.com. I just asked ChatGPT how much did cloud.com domain sell for? It said that the accountants for Citrix Software, which is the company that acquired it, they bought the whole cloud.com company for 200 to 250 million dollars, and their accountants placed an $18 million balance sheet value on the domain alone. So it was part of an acquisition, and who knows what the true value is, because they're in their books they booked it for $18 million.
Yeah, Ish, it is important all the research that you do on this stuff because starts separating you from, the rest of us who aren't doing research. But one, if you really care about an industry, especially investing, even if you're, it's like stock investing, you can do it. Really need to do a lot of research and understand what you're investing in, and it still is not foolproof. You still make mistakes, but it really does separate you. It's almost like you're interested in running. You don't just fucking run. Sometimes you have to really study running, and then you're thinking study running. First thing is just get out there and do it. But it is that important, and ish, that does, I was gonna say separate you. Start, and over the years then people just really can't catch up because you all this information about you see similar things happen over and over again. Certain patterns of investing. I wanted to say, yeah, when a lot of the guys that say, hey, that's 2% or that's 10% of the .com. A lot of the people are the same ones who don't believe any appraisals, but yet they believe that type of stuff. So it really doesn't make any sense. But it's like domain investors grabbing, just wanting something that does make sense. And we know the biggest thing in this space, if you're new to it in the last few years, we've sold names for big money 10 years ago. They're still not developed. I've sold names. I sold one last year. I think it was 12 grand or 13 grand. I didn't want to say it. I only mentioned it. They never did take it. Okay. It was a sale. And I sent, okay, payments received. I'm ready to transfer. Never did. And then, of course, then I was like, I sent him 2 or 3 messages within the first week, no response, and I thought, no, I'm not even going to go after him. But then I did even a month later, and not only will you see big names, and listen, mine aren't even say some of the big purchases. I was reading on right here on X, people of course sold a name for $100,000 and it was never developed, still on a part. That is not uncommon. It's just so unusual in a business that you never see somebody buy $100,000 car. They didn't pick it up. But in domains, it happens a lot. I wish Josh was here. Sorta. We're having such a good time. I hope he listens on the replay. Yeah, Josh, go ahead and have popcorn or whatever you do over there in the UK. We call it UCK anyway, UK. Hey, if he's listening. But he bought trading.bot, and I saw someone posted that it was like $2,900, and that's what the renewal is, $2,900. Yeah, man, I got I got transfer.bot, trash.bot, gambling.bot, wager.bot, land.bot. Listen, the most expensive, I remember like 100 for the expensive one and maybe 50 for the cheap ones. And I got, I think I got some good ones. I had 20. I let all of them drop except maybe 6. I certainly wouldn't pay fucking $3,000 a year for any bot. But then again, Josh is like, it's domaining wise, we're like the same, like pickleball wise. He's a pro, but I'm actually pretty good at pickleball. I play like 3 or 4 times and I can kick people's ass. Wait until I visit Braden next time because he plays. And these guys play, just like Siger, they play for years. These guys play all the time. And I'm telling you, yeah, I'm not worried about any of them. Now, Josh and Steve Kennedy, they're pros. I will say that. The other guys, some of them have certain ceilings on how good they can be, and I tell them right to their face. And plus, I'm an old guy, slower than I used to be, and I can't wait to play some of these guys because now I've played like 3 times in the last year. I'm ready to handle some business, and believe it. I was going to say about okay. So anyway, would you? Arif, start with you. Ish, I'd love to know even if you would do it. $3,000 for trading.bot? Would you have bought it for that if it had a $10 renewal? And then what do you think about the $3,000 renewal?
Yeah, $10 all day. I actually bought my first and premium NGTLD in this big buying burst I've been doing lately, but that was only I think it was $60 or $80 renewal or something in that range. But no, trading bot, that's an amazing domain, right? Because it's all stock market, right? And you have an automatic trading system. They're bots, right? You call them bots. So I think it's a great domain. I think it's a good buy. It's not what I do, so would I have done it? No, but I certainly think it was a smart purchase. It's probably one of the better bot names you could get for that reason, right? All these transactions going on. I'm also like for the AI stuff where everyone's saying, okay, agent. It wouldn't surprise me if at some point that term becomes a little bit more redundant and we're just talking bots, like in generic level. And so I do think that, bot is a good term, and I don't think it's going away anytime soon. I do think there's room for the bot keyword within, the growth of AI, businesses. So yeah, I think it's a good buy.
Ish, what do you think?
I have a lot of respect for Josh. I think he's a brilliant domainer, very successful, charismatic, but I think he's human like the rest of us, and that was a bad decision, respectfully. Um, if he had some sort of like build out intent with that name, then I can justify a $3,000 renewal. But I think that also impacts in a negative way the odds of selling that name because whoever's making a decision to buy a name like Trading Dot, but yeah, 3,000 might not be anything. Every business person does the math on opportunity cost, and they're gonna look at other options. When a .com is only $20 to renew or $10 or whatever you're paying, that $3,000 is a very hard thing for people to justify. And the adoption of bot doesn't justify me paying a $3,000 renewal. My bet is just gonna drop that name and just charge that one to the game. If he doesn't do that, then I would suspect that he has other plans for it. But as an investment in the realm of domaining, I just stay away from those type of names. The renewal it's a big issue. 3,000 is a lot of money for a renewal.
Yeah, I mean you're right on. If Josh thought, and I'd love, well, we'll hear him maybe next week. He'll tell us, his side of the story. Because even if he thought, I think this name's worth 10,000, okay, so I'm willing to buy it and then renew it for 2 more years, and I'll take it the temperature of the bot market. And I love what Arif said because I that's why I invested in it because I thought I can see it being interchangeable with agent rather than its real, auto program that it's always been. So I think it, like I'm looking for it to evolve into meaning agent, an automated agent, and then I love one syllable, bot. Okay, so I like that, but still, I'm like, hey, I didn't want to spend on the 22 that I had. I think I got down to 6 because I'm like, this is just, I love how .now sounds, but still, these GTLDs, you just really have to have the right, the right word to the left that goes with the right, and then you need all sorts of luck anyway. But so anyway, if Josh said, "Hey, I think it's worth 10 grand trading.bot," and then that's why I'm gonna keep it for 3 years. Ish is right.
Yeah, check it out. Trading.bot is a massive potential. I mean, and $3,000 renewal is ridiculous, and most of us can't even perceive that. But someone like Josh or someone who has the funding and the experience, you could off-sell that if you didn't want to keep paying the renewals for to get just your initial
Maybe, but
investment
hold on. I
back.
was like Barbara Streisand singing, and then you're like James Ingram. You come in, and I'm like, you're not even alive anymore. And then you
I'm
cuts right in.
sorry.
We're doing a
This is
duet
not
here,
like a
except
duet.
fucking wait till the bridge or whatever they call it. Hey, yeah. So I'm Barb. Call me Babs. Hey,
No, I'm sorry,
no,
Todd.
hold on.
Go
No, I
on.
just wanted to say, Brad, that the end was, yeah. When you go to resell that, Ish is right. Someone's like, hey, so it's 3 grand, and it does for major companies, I guess they would. They're certainly they wouldn't put on the brakes when you finally find that one. And Josh probably believes in exactly that it's going to be a big Wall Street firm, some big firm somewhere that's going to think, listen, that's exactly what we want. I own land.bot, and I realize those don't go that well, but I didn't care because I still wanted to develop out some automated program that finds available land first just in the U.S. and for investors. Well, in land.com, I love it. I wanted to do exactly that, and no one can own trademark land if you're selling land. Okay. You can put land like maybe Land Rover, if you're going to sell something else. But anyway, I wanted to do just a more automated version of land.com. Okay. That said, there's also a company that's on landbot.io. I mean, I believed I used them before and didn't even realize that, yeah, I own land.bot. I didn't even think about that when I bought the name because I'm thinking of land, but landbot.io, well, I could see them thinking land.bot is cool. I mean, maybe not. But anyway, that renewal cost of mine's like 100, I believe, $104. 3,000 just definitely puts a damper when you're reselling, and it's wouldn't be a damper if it was like, hey, $3,000 renewal on uh, trading.com, and people know, all right. But when you got this other extension, unless it takes off, even if it was .ai, then that still seems like high renewal. I'm sorry, Brad. Go ahead.
No, that's okay.
Yeah.
I just think I'm gonna need to get off now, and I want to thank you all. But just to real quickly, I mean, I was at last week when we talked about my nephew and something out west, and they're finally getting some airplay and hopefully something good. I didn't bring up, and I'd like to bring up. He's been doing this. Drew Arthur's been doing this for 20 years, over 20 years. They've had this group together for over 8 years, working their rear end off, and it's very much like the domain industry. They still haven't been making any money. Okay, they got maybe a hit, but it's a lot of work for anyone who finds success. It's not like, oh, they made it overnight. You know what I mean? People who are coming in from the outside think, oh, I never heard of them, and they just made it overnight. It's the same thing in the domain field. The people who are making it have been in it a long time, and they study it, and they really care about it. They love words, they love marketing, they love entrepreneurship. You love the word land. You know what I mean? There are things that are intrinsic and intuitive and undefinable that make this kind of like a combination of art and science. And I just wanted to thank you. I'm going to get off now. You all have a nice weekend. Happy 4th of July.
Thanks for joining us, Brad. And Something Out West is the name of the band, and they own somethingoutwest.com. Pretty cool. I want to ask you, Brad, before you go, do they have any nicknames for each other? I mean, it's Drew Arthur and Chet Hanks, but reason I ask is a different reason, but I'm curious. Do they, there's the group Something Out West.
Well,
Do they is this?
they also have SOW. I don't know, .io or something. I
Yeah.
don't know anything. This is their record company, and their handlers are doing all this. They're not doing it. And then Chet's making a movie now. Then even I don't even know how they're even going to be able to go on tour consistently. So it's kind of like a hybrid gig, I think.
Yeah. All
So
right.
yeah, and
Well,
I don't know what little innuendos they call each other.
yeah.
But I'll tell you one thing that my brother Drew's dad, and who's a musician himself, he tells me all the time when I get him pissed off, and I'm thinking maybe Todd, you can use this in your roasting. At the end, just say, "Lose my number."
Yeah, I've heard that
Okay.
before. Yeah.
Y'all have a happy 4th.
Hey, thanks. Have
Bye
a happy
bye.
4th. Yeah, that's right. Tomorrow's July 4th. Pretty big
Yeah,
day here in
and
Taiwan.
belated Canada, happy Canada Day to those of you on my side of the border.
Yeah.
We
Well,
had that.
we're going to be here for 10 more minutes. That's it. And then we're calling it a day. But
Todd,
Yeah.
did Josh, did he publicly say what he paid for Trading Bot?
Yeah,
Did he mention that?
I think he just registered it for the same price, 29.76, I believe, and I believe that's the renewal because somebody posted
Yeah.
it and he said, yeah, that's why he. So I think it was just he registered it. I don't think it was available because there's quite a few premiums on the bot that people are, great
Yeah, here I'm
names,
looking.
but they're wondering if.
I look on GoDaddy. It's $37.99 to renew a year.
Yeah,
So
so
yeah, I don't know.
probably at the cheap places that's better. Well, he also owns Robo Trader, and I think it's prettycool.com. Well, Arif, if you owned, I have this, I consider it a brandable. It's Robo Cars, CARZ. Okay, so Robo Cars. So yeah, I wish it was with an S, but it's with a Z. I've had it for a long time, and I had a lot of domains that end in Z, and they've never really, I've sold a few, but they've never really, usually just one word, negotiations, or Jaguars, stupid stuff, but ending in Z.
That's exactly where
Yeah,
people have to be careful with these kinds of things because exactly that. If it's a one-word brandable, yeah, it can work, right? But the moment you have two words and you change a letter, then you're being too cutesy. You haven't, there might be a few exceptions. Like I think I had at one point, and I'm saying it because it's mine, so it might not even be exception. I might be dreaming to myself. I think I had like some kind of like something cuts, like for a haircut type of thing. I forget what the first. I'm gonna check. But yeah, it's let's see, and a dot. How many do
so
I have?
Robo
Find out.
Cars with a Z, would you price that like a 2 grand? I mean, low price. How low would you price? Because I price it high. I still have hopes for stuff like that. But
So
how would
here's
you
where you got
price
to
it?
ask yourself, who's the buyer, right? And so the reality is like, okay, maybe it's like a toy model company, right? Because if you're a car company, you're never gonna brand yourself with a Z at the end, right? It's just not gonna happen, right? And so
They
like
might in
all
Asia.
right there, it's like it's just a non-starter. But I could see maybe some company making little model cars, whatever it is, it could work, but your probabilities are
Yeah, I'm
really
not looking for
dropped
little
off
model cars. I'm looking
big
for the
time.
motherfucking robo cars. Okay. Ish. What do you think?
Yeah.
Robo cars with a Z. I know it's bullshit name, but still, robo cars. You can at least, they could at least trademark robo cars with a Z. You do robo cars with an S. Anybody can use that because they're going to be called robo cars. But robo cars with a Z, they're like, hey, we're the ones that use the Z. Back off. So it is helpful in that way. What do you say? Doing something. Who cares? Okay, so he's doing something. Hey,
The one I have is fresh cuts with a Z. And like every time it comes around, I'm like, do I drop that? But I've had interest in that domain, and it looks like 3 times there's been inquiries. So it's something that people think of, but like I'm skeptical of that. It's just it's like I also own slogans with a Z at the end, and it's like it's one of those ones where it's like, okay, I bought it, but like, is it ever really going to sell? I'm like, I don't know. It's just some cost fallacy sometimes comes up in this business, and it's like it just hurts. The more you keep it, the harder it is to drop. But the more you keep it, the more you should drop it. It's just a
yeah,
circle like
they
that goes
don't they
crazy
don't
like that.
sell. I mean, I had tons of them, and I mean single words end in Z that even made sense, and um, they just I don't know. So I would say yeah, don't. Now I did own a lot. Like I remember back in the day, I saw Floor Pros with a Z on the side of a truck, and now I see it doesn't even go anywhere. But I thought that makes sense.
Yeah.
Glass Pros with a Z,
But
all sorts of
here's the thing.
yeah.
Yeah, here's the thing is that like there's 3 types of there's many types of domains, but there's 3 general global categories of domains looking at it as a domain investor who's flipping basically. And there's basically the investable level domains, which is probably 2% of all domains out there, right? You can argue between 1 and 3. You get what I'm saying. It doesn't, I don't know the exact number, but in that range. And then there's like 25% of domains out there that are usable, right? That, yeah, as a business, if my friend came up to me and said, I'm starting this business, I'm using this brand. Yeah. So, but only people that buy that at hand reg because there's nothing else available. It's not, those domains are not the types that people will pay the prices we need to sell them at to be profitable overall, right? Like 3,000, 5,000 or whatever it is, right? And that's the danger is that, oh yeah, it's usable. I mean, and most domain investors, they come in and they look at it. It's like, oh, I could see somebody using that. And the truth is yes, but are they going to spend $3,000? Is it such a great domain that spending $3,000 they're going to do that above all the other options they have for $3,000 or less, right? And that's where the question is, oh, it's usable, but it's not investable. Because to answer that question for most of those potential people who would use that brand as a business is no, they would not buy at $3,000. And there's other obstacles too, right? They have to find your domain. They have to know there's a lot of other, obstacles that we have to go through. And so, yeah. And then the other 75% or 80% of domains out there are like just total garbage, right? Like not even usable, right? And so it's, as an investor, you got to get into that 2% stuff, and you got to buy them right, and you got to price them right, and you got to make sure you do all the work and list them in Afternic and Cedo and the brandable marketplaces if they're brandables and all that stuff. So it's a big challenge. I don't know where I was going with that, but yeah, whatever.
I mean, for me personally, right, I've noticed that. I mean, if you want to double down on your strength and avoid your weakness, my weakness are brandables. I don't have that artistic perspective to carve out a good brandable that will sell for what I think is good money. I think I've noticed that my strength is in acquiring names that someone who may be a marketer and thinks the way I think would say, oh, we need this for customer acquisition reasons. You know what I mean? And maybe sometimes that falls in between the thin line between their brand identity, but people buy names for different reasons. And I found more success in acquiring names that people would think from a perspective of customer acquisition, cost or strategy will see value in those names, like testosterone test kits. No one is going to call themselves that, but owning that name is going to make you dominate that field. You know what I mean? Because that's how people search it,
Yeah.
right? So I just think that these brandable names, like with the Z and stuff like that, they're very tempting. But like you said, the people that brand themselves with those type of names usually don't want to spend a lot of money. So if you look at like the top of the game, people like Braden, he's buying dictionary words, very clear, defined words that obviously have value. Cloud.ai, $600,000. We all can't argue that that's a great deal because it's a very clear dictionary term. But what are the alternatives when somebody's in business and they want to have a stronger presence online, or they want to reduce the advertising costs? That's another functionality that domains have that a lot of people haven't tapped into.
Yep. Okay. We see old Joshy boy comes rolling in. We're closing in 3 minutes. Um, I don't know if he's listening. I hope he's having a good time.
Josh is having roast night, man.
He's having fun. Next week we'll talk about his trading.bot more, but also I wanted to mention that Morgan Linton was talking about how he was naming his new CTO podcast, and he basically just picked a name. He ended up picking a name, and Josh made the comment that, yeah, that's how a lot of people think of domain names. It's like you just wait until you can find something. Hey, Josh, make a comment on that before we shut down. Just tell us. So when Morgan said, you said that that's how founders think of domains, sort of like not too highly. Expound.
Hey, what's up, guys? Sorry, I wasn't able to attend today. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Cool. No, yeah. All I really meant on that is like, listen, Morgan's a great guy, very, very successful entrepreneur. Has a long history in the domain world. But I think what is interesting is that us domain investors, if we go and start companies, don't necessarily always have a history of picking what we would consider to be super premium domain names. And I think there's a lot to be said about that. Obviously he says that, this isn't a business, but for all intensive purposes, it is a commercial enterprise of some sort. And I think that it is viable to build a business on a non-premium domain name. And a lot of people just don't acknowledge that in our space. So I think what I'm really trying to say is that you can absolutely build a great business on a non-premium domain name. In fact, you can build a great business on a hand registered domain name. it's it's a different conversation why you should be buying a premium domain name, or who is the right fit for a premium domain name, and what, it's an intricate conversation, and it's not applicable to everyone. And yet I feel like within our space, it's, that's a bad domain name, you need to be able to, you need to pay for a oneword.com, and you need to pay 6 figures, and it's just not the case.
Well, Josh, I hope you're enjoying the time with the family. Really do. And no sweat, we made it through today. No problem. We were like, is Josh even in the car? He's not in the car. No wonder. So the music's better. Okay, but Josh,
Yeah, I knew you guys would enjoy it more without me.
no, we need your. I got a lot of keep making a lot of comments all week on your Twitter, because I have some comments that I want to go over, and we'll go over them next week. Some things like, basically you suggesting buy it now prices for the guy DNBX.com. He was having a slow year, and little advice you'd like to see from After Nick, with the regards to 20% down on an LTO. We don't have time to talk about all that crap anymore because we're closing, but I wanted to give a friend of mine, Victor, came on stage. He's with Namefi. Tomorrow morning, I know he's got a space that he's going to be doing here on X. And don't forget Isha's space, 10 a.m. on Saturday morning. That's 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. But Victor, what's happening? Nice to see you.
Hey Todd, thank you for having me. This is great, great audience, great guest. I have a lot of respect, and it's just a pleasure to be here. I know that you always run great shows and have very insightful conversation. Just want to say hi. Just want to say thank you for building this community. We have a Twitter space tomorrow to talk about AI, and I know Ishmaeli, I know you, and also many guests on the stage have talked a lot. And today, tomorrow, there will be a space that would be dedicated to how AI changes domain names. So we'd love to kind of get a chance to let people know. And also, kudos to Todd. This is a great conversation.
Nice. Thank you, Victor. You made me feel, yeah, I built this industry on my back. It was me. It was really before BC. And okay, so no, it's obviously fantastic to have a nice community, and I appreciate everybody showing up today. Next week on this show, we got a big one. And next week on the Domain Name Law Show, Jeffrey, okay, he had a pretty big case that is going forward now. Basically, GoDaddy was getting sued because they clawed back a couple domain names. Well, the judge said, yeah, this case can go forward. They cannot just take these names back, especially 2 months later. So Jeff's going to give us an update on that, but we have some good cases. So that's Tuesday, domain name law. Next, Thursday, of course, right here, same time, same place. And then, but before all that, tomorrow, Victor's having a space in the morning. At least for me, it's in the morning. So join Namefi, and we'll go in there and just tear up the place. Victor will try to keep control of all of us, and then we'll just take it over. But don't forget Ish's spot. Like I said, on Saturday morning, I'm right at the horses. That's my time, but I do try to listen sometimes. But Ish, I will, since you participated so nicely today, I needed the help. I'll probably be there Saturday morning, raising hell. All right, everybody, have a great rest of your day wherever you're at. We appreciate you being here. But check out me and Josh the same time next week. Take care.
Later.